Here's my theory about Q, the Borg, and the Dominion. Real simple. When Q threw the Enterprise D, however many light years, from the Alpha Quadrant into the Delta Quadrant so that they would be in the path of Borg Q, he didn't do this willy-nilly, and he didn't do it for the reason that he stated exactly. Well, he kind of did allude to it in the episode. He told Picard that the Federation was going too far too fast and they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. But the implication I think that they and us watching the episode got from it was, things like the Borg, maybe other things closer, like in the Alpha and Beta quadrant that they weren't ready for. But actually, I think Q knew that the Federation was on a collision course for the Dominion, and he wanted to introduce them to a dangerous threat beyond anything they had imagined early enough that the Federation would harden itself up in time to be able to take on the Dominion in a direct confrontation. And that's exactly what happened. And the Defiant class starship was developed, and later on the Sovereign class. And then later on, what they call the Borg busting fleet in Star Trek Online, which isn't canon yet, but a lot of stuff from Star Trek Online is getting grafted into canon the same way that things from Star Wars, The Old Republic has been getting slowly grafted into Star Wars over the years. So Q is a misunderstood character, in my opinion. Q actually likes Picard, and therefore he likes the humans, and he's actually doing things tough love to benefit the humans, right? To prepare them, to get them to evolve and get with the times. Because at the time, the Federation created the Galaxy class starship, which is absolutely an abortion of engineering. The thing should never have existed. It's ridiculous. It's a cruise liner in space. Space is dangerous. It's death and despair wrapped in darkness and cold, or whatever it was that Bones said in the Star Trek movie. Like, space is really scary. There's all kinds of weird anomalies. There's shit going on all the time. It's like a giant haunted house, right? And they're going around in a cruise liner all willy-nilly. They have no idea what they're going to run into. And that was the point that Q was making. He was telling them, look, you guys need to sober up and realize there's dangerous shit out here. And they were able to fight off the Dominion because of that. As an aside, it's absolutely no coincidence, going back to my original theory, my first theory I uploaded, my first video, that the Dominion made a beeline for Beta Z. They must have already figured out that the Betazoids, being telepaths, were perhaps the Federation's most important strategic resource, and they wanted control over that planet and making sure that no more telepaths got off that world for the war, because telepaths would have been the easiest way to detect the shapeshifting founders, in my opinion. And I think it's a critical error of Deep Space Nine that this was never actually said explicitly. Although it might have been implied with the fact that Deep Space Nine actually introduces espionage and clandestine activities with Section 31 and the Tal Shiar and stuff of that nature far more. Not so much the Tal Shiar, actually, as the Obsidian Order, far more than the other shows have. So yeah, just mentioning that about the Dominion War, because I think Q introduced the Federation to the Borg to prepare them not for the Borg, because I don't think the Borg were ever going to be much of a direct threat, because, well, I don't know, that did kind of get retconned later, but there wasn't a wormhole connecting the Delta Quadrant to the Alpha Quadrant. And I think, being outside of time, Q obviously knew that the Bajorn wormhole was going to be discovered, and that this would lead to a head-on confrontation between these two great superpowers of the Dominion and the United Federation of Planets. So he wanted to see the humans survive and come out on top and not get enslaved by the founders. So he got them ready in time. He did what was necessary, and really it wasn't a big deal in the scheme of things. Just like getting a section of the Enterprise D cut out and scaring the living shit out of everyone on that ship enough that they ran home to the Federation and told them, hey, there's big scary creatures out here we're not ready for. So that's pretty much the theory, that Q is actually a good guy, and that Q actually has done a lot of things to help the Federation, but in the big scheme of things, really hardened them up, got them to harden up in time that they were ready to effectively resist the Dominion.